Alchemy, a priesthood tale, narrated by James Zeal Thrones. Now this tale is a dark one, for without darkness there could be no light. In the beginning, there was darkness. Our story begins with the Black Owl, spreading his shadow like a blanket across humanity to give the world what he considered to be a well-deserved nap. And this is his lullaby.
Hey yo, his feathers dance in the breeze while his wings in the air flex. His talons drop bombs on the kings in the square hex. 97 degrees in the shade of a fair's necks. He swooped in like walking down invisible stair steps. The scared force once a sign of ink when they prayer checks. If not a guy that ain't never blinking the stair test. Nobody's home but the security drone that sent the footage to his brother who was linked to the where yes. Searching for the priesthood, they searching for him. In a loop that kept repeating like the words in the hymn. Found his name in the rare text where angels compared bets. Or watching the affairs of men who bang over shared breath. Private meetings with the scam pikers overtaking thought. Shady deals on the periodic tablecloth. Angels lost seconds, broth drinking from their necks. Dark nights passing hell, passing else with passing yell. Run the ounce, come and golden ring on the air's chest. Contain souls, chest hairs, split into your chest hairs. Take your heart, put it in this crystal over chest theirs. Those who played them disappeared, crippled over death stairs. Quickly covered chest squares like women with their breast bare. He never lost his spirits, ran tripping over breath stairs. Giggles in the air left, talons blade the palisade, ripping through his spare vest. The physical is air dressed, but is he man of myth? Bullets singing, it's a fair test. Or cut your arms off if you thinking a dead jest. It's still he thought circles while I'm thinking it their best. He's trying to live on, the light in his ribs gone. Avoided death when he got tired, he switched forms. From way back, he was never like all the kids born. Him and his twin brother enjoying the red summer, trying to catch butterflies and skipping the wind flutter. They call him exhale, and his brother was in the hell, both in prison in the rib cage and stuck in a skin jail. The struggle won't end well, stuck under a thin veil. His brother was invited, they rejected him most. Never felt he was inspired by the heavenly host. His twin was so infallible, he could do no wrong. He caught his victories, mistakes, never choose to belong. His best friend became his shadow, brother grew in the dawn. While he preferred the night, hurt by light. Underneath the surface like Pollux caster, Abel Cain. Owl and master made him train 1,000 hours with his twin, whether it was sun or rain. Going through a sudden change and went in his own route. He heard the voices trapped inside the center of stone shout. From overside of remnant saw crystals and bones drought. He even grabbed the gnosis from the sphinxes with no snout. He only saw life through the lens of his own doubt. The color thing's wicked, it kept him on the outside like submarine liquid. Shadows fogging up his brain, another unforeseen visit in a sudden dream vivid. With a lion's raw movement, the monkey scream ribbit. On a giant sunflower where the money bees pivot. Flowing through the spirit hood where the thuggish trees kicking, fighting with the press and still kept his head to the sky. As he walked through the darkness, making destiny cry.
Always kept his head to the sky, walking through the darkness. Always kept his head to the sky, walking through the darkness. No, they can't see him walking through the darkness. No, they can't see him walking through the darkness.
Yo, the spirit in the body, it can never be killed. So the sound waves together in the melody quilt. Thoughts and dated mind tempers once the jealousy built. But still the Z of life flowers too healthy to will. Born 12 hours apart, only fate can explain. The opposition of the night and day weighed on his brain. The odd position of the sky array plainly explained. Of the polarized battle of the glow to strike shadow. Even broke the time shackles, who could fix the debris? His sand castles in his thoughts fall and drift in the sea. Flesh of weak and men struggle to resist the decree. As they lower self, slipped them an invisible key. With trick gnosis, he closed the eyelid of the tree. In the center of the earth and caused eclipses to be. It's why I needed Zoe strikes the guard the wicked should flee. He seems invisible, yet only those with wisdom can see. Underneath the shell, studying the energy chi. The dark forces in his chart made his enemies be. Cause he felt the world older, made it bend to his knee. While his brother was the light to put it into his spree. Once he left somewhere, the people thought ignorantly. Cause the fear became power, he would grip as they plea. He thought about it every morning when he'd sip of his tea. Met a wizard who he paid to do his bidding, the fee. He could have his brother's kingdom, everything that he owns. Both inherit vast land plus a place on the throne. One day they caught him in the desert far away from his home. Man, the owl damaged foul, he was sinking alone. Far back, right before they turned his wings into stone. Disappeared in whirling wind to escape as he roamed. When he came for his payment, he reneged on the deal. So we made him an owl too, magic ripped through his shell. He vowed the world's nightmares, they would live to be real. Since the wounds on his spirit never lifted the hill. Pull it back, every fruit has a different appeal. Found the night Albert Pike and Shadow lived through them, though they end up in the ground of light. Crystals in the crown of light. Light from 1,000 missiles wasn't bringing down the night. These dark shadows, they would roll in his brain. Without day, he would rule and control the terrain. Could appear to be human, couple moments to change. When he ate the moonberries, he could hold it like frames for hours long. A sound of water dripping made him insane. You turned rivers in the desert lands of saying could rain. You stabbed him with the blade before the wizard in the shop ran. A magic hourglass, he making pieces of a mosque's plan. Dome tip from crushing time, crystal in the rock sand. Tom couldn't kill him with the pistol in the clock hands until his grain vanished, disappearing like the Olmecs. They made a statue for him in the wilderness of Smolek. Another sacrifice, fresh meat on the stove. The Scam Tigers yearly feast at Bohemian Grove. Him and his brother separated at birth. His mother passed by giving birth to him. They blamed him at first that his brother was a gift, but he came as a curse. Abused by an artificial priest, raised by the church. Killed later by killer priest. All the angels dispersed, sent away by his father. He ain't know what to do. They reconnected in their teens first and nobody knew. Until the pieces form a picture clearly nobody drew. They still brothers, though they paths ain't remain together. Meet each year one day at the temple, play chess and train together. Still sharp as steel before text and symbols came together. Like drums playing made his bed in the sky. As he walked through the darkness, making destiny cry.
Always kept his head to the sky, walking through the darkness. Always kept his head to the sky, walking through the darkness. No, no, they can't see him walking through the darkness. No, 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 they can't see him walking through the darkness. They can't see him walking through the darkness. They can't see him walking through the darkness. No, in the end, fate had its plan. No, in the end, fate had its plan. On his road to become
As the royal priesthood went from one portal to another, seeking to vanquish the shadow, the dark owl walked into the darkness, becoming one with the void, in search of Now that, my friends, is a priesthood tale for another day.
All right, peace and blessings. Welcome to another episode of the Knowledge Radio. Place where knowledge is born. This is your host, Knowledge on the Lobby, here in the new month. We here in the new month. We in July. I mean, July. I don't know how to pronounce it properly. Either way. We here. Whoa,
I got here.
okay. We're here to celebrate, to elevate, and to inspire the mind. And we have a masterful one here who inspires our mind to correct our behind. Okay. I ain't gonna bother you today. I'm not gonna bother you. I'm gonna say it becomes my honor and privilege at the time to introduce some, present to others, and to welcome back here for our monthly sit down a phenomenal spiritual advisor who is helping create new normals of wellness and transformation in our families, one engagement at a time. The remarkable mastermind, Reverend Dr. J.M. Huskey.
The intros every time with this guy.
How are you, mother?
Honored to be here. Honored to be here.
Yes. Today is Patrice Lumumba's birthday. Peace and blessings be upon him and his royal line and what he meant to the place that is now known as the Democratic Republic of the Congo, but was Zaire during his time. Him and Denmark Vesey have the same birthday. Mega Evers also, and the African warrior liberator Sinke. So, in this space, I welcome you. African warrior, teacher, scholar, trapper, former, allegedly, right? Glad you're here with us on today to talk about something. I think that we think we do well until we don't do well.
Mm.
Understanding communication and communication styles. And this was a concept that you said you saw looming around the internets and social media and as a whole. So,
Right.
what was it about this particular aspect that she was like, we should talk about this? Because that's how she said it. It's like she put her finger, like, talked about it. I was like, all right. I thought I was going to leave it.
But no, I just saw a repeating theme. I see a lot of podcasts, these bitter breakup, angry baby mama, we don't need each other type podcasts, and it's becoming a trend. And I think it's very toxic to let that be the only narrative that's being pushed out there without having some adjustments and corrections being made. So I wanted to make sure we touch on that and steer folks in the right direction.
That's what it is. So before we get started, I wanted to hear your thoughts. If you had any thoughts about the video that you saw.
I liked it. I like the storytelling. I love a good storytelling moment. The AI art was really cool. I think that should be something that many stories are told in that way. I think that that'll be more appealing to especially the younger people that don't know these old stories, that have never heard of these things, but would be fascinated if they caught a whiff of it. So I think that definitely is something that should be continued, something that we should tell a couple more stories in that fashion.
Luther Zodiac for that. That's a gift that I prepared to present to one of the illest Wu Tang vocalists ever. I mean, all of them were great. All of them were great, and all of them are great. That was for Tequila. So it's a blend of three different worlds, so to speak. Killer Freaks has a world. Forrest Whitaker has a world. Zodiac has a world. Tequila, RZA, Prana, they have a world. And we put all of those worlds together in one space. So an ode to Ghost Dog. That song was originally on the Ghost Dog soundtrack. The only song on the soundtrack that doesn't have a rapper because they didn't need a rapper in the original version of the song. So it was an ode to her and the ode to how the darkness and the light coexist. So the darkness and the light coexist, and the story adapts from the twins of each other and the polarities that exist one to the other growing up together. You see what I'm saying? So they show them like twin brothers of one another in that dynamic, and how all of this works together in one cohesive tale. So it's a tale within a tale within a tale within a tale that's presented in an inception type of fashion.
Right. I appreciate just the display of the duality because a lot of these more organized religions and spiritual paths, they tend to do away with duality. You just gotta be good. Like bad is just bad, and dark, stay away from it. And they don't understand that you have to have that balance. And so good and evil is about perception. It's about how you look at it. What may be evil to me may not be evil to the person that's doing it, depending on their perspective. And so I think we all need to have that duality and appreciate how those two worlds can come together and be cohesive and work together without being the same.
Yeah, and I know from studying African culture and reading African folk tales that the reasoning is a lot different and very direct. So one of the tales I remember was a short story. It was a man and his son, old man and his son, and they're working on a farm, and the son was on the horse and fell off the horse and broke his leg. So when they went to the old man and said, "Oh man, your son, he he fell off the horse and he broke his leg. That's unfortunate." The old man said, "Who's to say?" So then a war broke out, and they were taking all of the sons from the town, and the son couldn't go to war because he had a broken leg. And it was like, "Oh man, this must be great. You know, you get to keep your son because he doesn't have to go off to war and the fight." And the old man said, "Who's to say?" So, in this aspect of this dualistic sense, they were talking about something as a misfortune and looking at it the same aspect of a misfortune and a fortune. And the wisdom of the elder was, who's to say? So, to reflect on the personification or the perspective of one thing to another. You know, it varies from whatever vantage point you're looking at it at. So I thought that that was fitting in communication style. So especially amongst us and how you're able to work with different clients and people with different communication styles. The
Absolutely.
darkness and the light. My mother used to say,
You can't
"You
have
can't
one without the other.
without the other, right? You can't have one good thing without another, or one thing without another." So that was it. That was a claim, right? One of many. So let's get into understanding communication styles.
Mm.
Where's the class? Where's the school? Where is the classroom? What's the degree program? What the tuition look like? How do we enroll? How do we get one-on-one sessions? What's the what's the T on communication styles? And what are we what is a communication style and what are we missing about communication style?
A communication style is your language, your mannerisms, the way that you go about expressing yourself. Some people are very articulate and do well expressing themselves through words. Other people, you have to watch their body language. Some people, you just catch a vibe. But I think in order to have effective communication, you have to have people who actually care to communicate and not just care to be heard. Communication is an exchange between two or more individuals. You can't talk at someone or just speak to someone without being receptive to what they have to say in response, because that's not communication, that's just talking, and that's not the same thing.
Communication and talking is not the same thing.
Not at all.
We're gonna have to open that up a little bit. I have to break that down a little bit because that was something right there. That was something. So
When you
folks are talking and they're like, "I'm trying to tell you what I'm trying to say. Man, they ain't hearing what I'm saying, blah blah." So
when you talk with the intention of just being heard. You don't speak with the intention of it being reciprocated. You talk and it's I said what I said and that's it. You're not open to response, you're not open to exchange. When you communicate, let me express to you what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling, and I want to know how you feel about that. I'm open to your response. And so it's not the same thing.
all right. I just realized I'll be doing a lot of talking and not a lot of communicating. Okay.
A lot of people do.
I'll be talking a bunch, but I don't be communicating well.
Depends on the circumstances though. Sometimes you have to say what you gotta say and leave it at that.
Hmm. So how do you know when to talk versus communicate? What are some instances where talking is sufficient enough and when communicating? And do you need words to communicate?
You don't necessarily need words to communicate, but you need an understanding to communicate. Black people can give each other looks or make a certain facial expression, and we know exactly what each other meant without saying anything. It's just a tune and a vibe that we catch. Your mama, if you have a black mama, she can give you a look when you cutting up in church that make you freeze and not want to move anymore. And so that's nonverbal communication. But the times when you communicate is when you have to reach some kind of compromise, some kind of resolution when you're trying to reach a common goal. That requires communication. The times when you talk is when that compromise has been reached, when that resolution has been met, and now you're just making a statement. That's when you could say, I said what I said, because it doesn't require a response. It's just making a statement about what's going on.
They were doing a program yesterday, and kind of tuned in. It was a father and his son, his eldest child, and they were talking about therapy and how therapy helped accelerate his own healing journey. So the benefits of therapy. Is there a space where we can go to learn how to effectively communicate and heal from the traumatic experiences that came along with being talked at, being berated, and learn how to effectively communicate to ourselves first and then to the broader world?
Mhm. So the way to overcome being placed in a toxic space like that, where you're not encouraged to communicate properly, where you're not encouraged to express yourself, the only way to overcome that is to consistently expose yourself to a safe space now. It makes you more comfortable. It makes you feel as though you're allowed to express yourself. Unfortunately, the way that a lot of people of color raise their children, they don't raise them to express themselves or effectively communicate. A lot of our households are very much do as I say, not as I do, speak when spoken to, get out of here when grown folks are talking type of thing. If you shoo kids away every time you're communicating, how do they learn how to communicate? And so I don't do my children like that. They know not to interject in grown folks' subjects, but I don't run my kids off unless it's an age inappropriate conversation. I let them see people communicating. I let them see me when I'm mad. How does mommy respond when she's angry? How does mommy respond if she gets sad or if something happens or she's grieving or she doesn't feel well? How does mommy express herself? Because you have to encourage that positive communication so that they don't get 30, 40, 50 years old and have these bottled up feelings that they don't know how to articulate.
Yeah, we definitely know them households.
Mm-hmm.
Do as I say, not as I do. Grown folks' business, and then that those learning models become reinforced and reintroduced over time. Stay in the child's place. All of those narratives that are there. These are things that were used on the plantations of America for safeguards that have been adapted into households and from one generation to the next. So from the plantation to Jim Crow to all these other things, these were all safeguards that were utilized, but not actual parenting modalities. So
Right.
introducing these parenting modalities that go back to our indigenous cultures, we look at them as if they're foreign to us. And the adaptation of these particular parenting styles and communication styles that we did for survival have now become the normative things. Like this is the thing that you inherit. So we talk at one another and, and then we fussing and cussing and into it with one another. And we didn't even hear each other. And if you're on the outside, oftentimes, like y'all saying the same thing. And then they turn on you, like, what you talk? Like, you see what I'm saying? So these are aspects now to where everybody's talking, nobody's communicating, and we can't hear each other in the space at all. Because whatever vantage point we're coming from, we're in that space and we're on guard.
Right.
And this is often the thing that gets passed on to our children. So our children, the first word that they hear is no.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the first words that they say is no. And they say no with the same inflection and tonality that we say to them all the time. No, 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 no. And then they start doing it with each other. And then we look at this space like we just passed a learned behavior trait on from one generation to the next, and that space of communication is lost.
Mm-hmm.
But the learned behavior trait is there, and then they grow up and they into it with everybody because of something that was passed on to them that they kept with them that became a tradition.
Right.
So very interesting, very interesting. And so in these cases, how do you help folks break these kind of habits of talking at people?
I think that first a person has to actually want to learn how to communicate. Because if you speak Spanish and I speak French and we try to talk to each other, if I don't have the desire to understand what you're saying, I'm not going to put the effort into being able to effectively communicate. Now in 2024, we can speak completely different languages and pull up an app on the phone and still carry on a whole conversation that will translate this for us. But we have to put the effort into using that app, into caring about having that conversation and communicating effectively. A lot of people don't care to communicate effectively. Instead of communication, it turns into a power struggle of I want to be heard, I want to be seen, and I need to be heard and seen more than you. And sometimes it turns into a physical struggle of let me overtalk you because I feel like you're not hearing me. So let me raise my voice or let me change my tone of voice, thinking that's going to help me get my point across more effectively when it just makes me loud and wrong. It doesn't make me more effective. It doesn't make you hear me more. And it's probably going to prompt you to raise your voice and to change your tone. And so the communication just gets lost right there. Everybody has to want to gain understanding of the other party. And we don't care enough about each other's opinions and feelings and thoughts sometimes as a community to tune in like that. I just want to say what I want to say, and I want you to agree with me. And sometimes you'll hear people say, you don't understand me, or you're not listening to me. And what they really mean is you're not agreeing with what I'm saying and not understanding that I can understand you 100% and still think that you're wrong. And people don't acknowledge that.
Whew, that was a whole. That was a whole 500 years in America situation in 2 minutes. Yeah. So different rearing styles. I had to learn the uniqueness of all of my children. Everybody's unique. So when my mother, I used to ask my mother on the sly, she'd be like, "Who's your favorite child?" She said, "I don't have a favorite child. All of y'all my favorite."
That's a
I
better
still,
answer than my
I
grandmother.
still,
My grandma
I
say, I
still
don't.
think, yeah, I still think, she said that to spare my feelings. The little bit of feelings I do got, I think she said it to spare my feelings. But what I understood and what I learned from my own experience is the experiences and the memories and the connections that you share with each child is everlasting. So I got a stack of books because I was given a stack of books from young.
Hmm.
And if I was reading or studying or whatever the case may be, I wasn't into nothing else. And my mother figured out very early that if I had a book in my hand, the world was safe. The moment I didn't, it was up for grabs. So she gave me a bunch of books, and I was in another world outside of the world that I existed in with a book.
Even though that action of your mom making sure that she provided books to you, even if it was just to keep you occupied so you didn't idly go get in trouble, that was communication in itself. She
Right.
saw an issue. She saw that when you weren't occupied, when you did have too much free time on your hands, she might have a little problem with you. So let me put a book in
A
his hand.
lot, a lot of problems.
So
Yeah.
she was seeking understanding and she found a resolution to what that issue was. So her simply noticing and paying attention enough to your actions and reacting to that, that's still communication, even though she didn't have to say, here, I'm giving you books so that you'll stay occupied and stay out of trouble. She made sure that she provided you with something that she saw was a need for you, a welcome distraction. So even that's communication.
Yeah, I think that communicated that was heard a lot more loudly than some of the other ways she used to communicate. And that was something that I looked to emulate with my children and with people in my life that I care about, finding something that's of interest to them to communicate,
Mhm.
whatever the sentiments are.
I had to really start working on my communication skills because my 8-year old daughter has a form of autism called Asperger's disorder. And with Asperger's, they don't typically understand sarcasm, they don't understand social cues. And so I had to become better at expressing myself verbally instead of expecting her to catch on to what was going on. For example, my daughter had an instance in school last year where her teacher made the comment, "I'm so hungry I could eat a horse." And my daughter had a meltdown because she loves horses. And why would this lady eat a horse? What is wrong with her? I don't want her to be my teacher anymore. She took it very literally. And so that helped me to develop stronger communication skills because I had to be able to effectively communicate with her without relying on the type of communication that I was used to because it's not effective with her.
So, creating new norms in regards to communication. How can we begin the process of communicating more effectively, verbally and non-verbally?
I think, like I said, it starts with that desire to understand and to actually communicate clearly, but also just being considerate of who we're speaking to. If I value what you have to say, if I value your expressions and how you feel, I'm more likely to listen and tune in and actually care enough to hear you. If I don't care about your thoughts and your feelings, I'm probably gonna let it go in one ear and out the other because I'm only interested in what I have to say. And so, starting there on an emotional level of actually caring what other people have to say, more so than just wanting our own opinions to be heard, I think that would change the game a lot when it comes to us communicating, especially between men and women, because a lot gets lost in translation there.
Okay, so I'm sure we might have touched on emotional intelligence before a
Mhm.
couple of times. So now emotional intelligence in the space of effective communication. How much of a factor and what role does emotional intelligence play in effective communication?
A huge role because your emotional intelligence is going to be how you measure or how you tell how you should communicate. If you are not emotionally intelligent, if you get angry, it seems like common sense just goes out the window. You don't want to express yourself in a way that could be understood. You just want to express your anger. When in fact, anger is a secondary emotion. Nobody ever just instantly gets mad. The human brain doesn't even, it's not wired that way. By secondary emotion, I mean you felt something else before you got angry. You were hurt, you were embarrassed, you felt betrayed, you were sad, you felt something for a second, and then it triggered anger. Nobody just jumped straight to anger. And so when you're trying to express a secondary emotion, you're skipping over that primary emotion. So you're not expressing how you truly feel. It's just coming out as I'm pissed, I'm angry, I want to yell, I want to scream, I want to curse you out. When really it could be, I'm hurt, I don't like what you did, I don't like what you said, but I'm not expressing that primary emotion because I don't have the emotional intelligence to do so. I'm just skipping to that secondary emotion. And now I'm mad at you for not understanding me when I'm the one that didn't explain it properly. And so we need that emotional intelligence to help us gauge how we're supposed to go about communicating what we're thinking and what we're feeling.
I'm mad at you because I didn't explain it properly.
hmm Mad at you because you didn't understand me.
Yes, yes. I've been in that situation a bunch of times. So in my own space of self-reflection, whew, yeah, yeah, yeah. My religion for a while was taking it wrong, take it wrong.
hmm
You know what I'm saying? Like,
But did they
it's
take it wrong or did you say it wrong?
no me take I've taken it like me. Whatever was said, I took it wrong. I took it wrong first, and then converted it and took it right.
hmm
So a primary default program setting for me was that taking stuff wrong first,
hmm
and then taking it and converting it and taking it right. 8 times out of 10, 2 times out of 10, I took it wrong and kept it wrong and was wrong with
Right.
wrong. I don't know if I was loud and wrong, but I was wrong. But my
Loud,
taking
really
it
loud.
wrong was very loud.
Mhm.
I don't know if my octaves or my tonality was loud and wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was at the same time. Yeah, yeah. Because that space where the anger is, it blinds you. You can't see anything, you can't hear anything, you can't feel anything. There, that's a place where we get stuck. You get stuck on one of those instances or all three.
Right. Anger can definitely have a huge negative effect on communication because anger takes your expressions from let's gain understanding to I just want to express how I feel. I want you to feel me and know how angry I am and how upset I am. And I don't care what your response is to it. So I'm not listening. Now I'm not communicating, I'm talking. And so anger can definitely get in the way. For me, I try really hard not to get angry. That's something that we have to learn about ourselves too, as far as communicating. Learn what your communication style is, learn what your limitations are, learn what your triggers are. For me, I know if I get angry, I don't want to hear nothing. Like you could be making the most sense in the world, and I'm not interested in anything that you're saying because that anger is so blinding and deafening. So for me, I try to stay really calm. Nobody will ever tell you they've heard me raise my voice. In almost 40 years on this earth, nobody can say I yelled at them unless it was like a protest or something because I yell at police. But nobody can ever say I yelled at them in a conversation. I don't raise my voice. And the reason that I don't is because the way that the human brain is wired, the minute that you speak in an abnormal volume, they become defensive. It's natural, it's human instinct that when something is too loud, it's registered as a threat to you mentally. So now, instead of me listening to what you're saying when you're yelling, I feel like I have to defend myself because my brain has now registered you as a threat to me. And so, because of that, I try not to express myself in those typical angry ways. Now, I can be saying some things to you that's going to let you know how I feel, but I won't raise my voice at you. And that's just my chosen style of communication because I know the minute you raise your voice at me, I don't care what you're saying anymore. And the communication is out the window. Now we're both just talking.
Now, can we look at the cultural and spiritual influences on how these things have an effect on how we communicate?
I think that it's really important for us to understand where that breakdown in communication came from. And so, for instance, between men and women, we have very different communication styles sometimes. Of course, different races, different cultures have different ways of communicating, but men and women, especially, have different ways of communicating. Men are more logical thinkers, women operate more off of emotion. And so, for a man, what I found in my experience, it is better to keep it very short and sweet and direct when you are communicating with a man. Because if you put too much emotional expression into it, you lose him. Now he ain't listening no more. Now he just counting down till you shut up and he can go back to what he's doing. And so for me, I had to learn that let me get straight to the point. Because if he's operating on logic, I need to hit him with, I'm upset with you because you did this. And when you did this, it made me feel this way. Can we not do this again? All right, bet. And that's it. If you start putting too much emotional expression into it and you're a woman talking to a man, they're not going to hear anything that you're saying. And that's not because they don't care. It's not because they're being dismissive. It's literally because of how their brain is wired. And the same with a woman. If you're too cut and dry in your response to a woman, we register that as you dismissing us and you're not caring. And so we have to find an even ground there. I have to be able to communicate with you a certain way. You have to be able to respond to me in a certain way in order for everybody to be heard and understood.
That's deep right there. I think it becomes on your relationship with someone. I think that in that relationship space, the determining factor is y'all's relationship.
Hmm.
So if there's an infraction that needs to get pointed out to get corrected, you should know how to bring it to that person,
Right.
whether it's a man or a woman. You should study them to know an approach, and if you don't know, you ask.
Absolutely.
Assuming and all of these other things, I think, become the pain points of this based off of whatever the logic is. I know some overly emotional, male, violent, crazed dudes that are out here walking around. And I know very logical, calculated, level headed women out here.
Hmm.
So those spaces, they become blurred depending on who you're dealing with. And so
Right.
a man might engage his mind before he engages his mouth,
Hmm.
80% of the time. But if he's in a love space or a hurt space or whatever space it is, and it's all the way through the roof,
Hmm.
that you're not gonna get no logical man.
Right. And that's
you
where
gonna, you
I
gonna
would
get whatever that little emotion, whatever that emotion is in that moment. It suspends and it defies the logic in that that space right there. So depending on that relationship, you can find your way with each other when you learn each other in the way that you need to in y'all's relationship. If it's worth it, then you'll you'll learn a way to communicate whatever you need effectively. Because the point is effectively, you can separate the infraction from from the person. You see what I'm saying? Or depending on whatever it is, like
right.
you're upset or you're disappointed or displeased with this, not the person. The this, not the person. So it's dirt. Like you left this dirt over here, not you're dirty behind. Mama say, Mama say, Mama stop. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, you was about to say something. I just
No, I was saying that when you have experiences and you have certain instances in your life that may cause you to change your communication style, that becomes an environmental thing. So I could be a very well rounded, level headed individual, but if you put me in a certain situation, it may trigger me to communicate differently because of how I'm responding to my environment or responding to what's going on around me. And so, like you said, it could be a man who most of the time he does think logically, but you put him in a situation with a woman he's in love with and he can't handle her the same way he would handle somebody else. Now his hands are kind of tied when it comes to communicating. Like I can't cuss her out like I would my homeboy in the street or a random woman I don't know. So now I don't know how to express myself. Now I feel like my hands are tied and I'm restricted and I'm responding to that experience in that environment. Same thing with women. If a woman, depending on who has a person's ear, that's for men and women, but who has that woman's ear? I never, as a therapist, had so much trouble as when Steve Harvey came out with this whole think like a man narrative. I wanted to meet Steve outside when he came out with this whole net. Like, meet me in the field, bruh. Because it ruined so much communication in relationships. There's no reason for you to be encouraging a woman to think like a man. For what? That is, it's a balance for a reason. We have masculinity and femininity for a reason. And when they come together, it's cohesive and it's beautiful. If both of y'all too busy trying to be real inwards, nobody's gonna get hurt. That's not what we need to be doing. Now, understanding how a man thinks is much different than you thinking like a man yourself. You should not be emulating a masculine form of communication if you're a woman. Now, this is something that I had to work on really, really hard in my life because I am a little rough around the edges. I will be big homie Blanco for to some guys if I need to, if the situation calls for it. I have to feel like I'm in a safe space in order for me to relax in my femininity and communicate from that space. If I feel like, and this is no shot to my brothers because I love y'all. However, if I'm in the presence of men that I don't feel like make me secure, if I'm in the presence of men who I don't feel safe or protected around, I am big homie. You gonna get big homie me. That's what happens. Because I feel like there's a lack of your masculine energy. It's a lack of the divine masculine. So now my femininity, knowing that women supplement, women add to, women multiply. Now I feel like I gotta compensate for your lack of masculinity. And now I'm tough, I'm hard, I'm rah, rah, rah. I don't want to be that way, but I feel like the situation calls for it. And that's what women do. They're helpmeets. So if your masculinity is down to 20%, now I feel like I gotta step it up a little bit and I gotta put the pants on when I communicate because I don't feel as though you're handling it. And so when we have those types of situations, it breeds miscommunication. Because now, if we got all of these masculine women trying to communicate from that space, that leaves nothing but for the men to be softer and more feminine. And so it's going to be a clash regardless. So we have to start acknowledging things like that too. It's a lot of people that don't want to talk about those type of things, but we have to acknowledge that communication does have a lot to do with femininity and masculinity as well, and how well they can work together or how disastrous they can be when the levels are off. Because I can talk to a man that's 6'5", 250 like he's 3 and bring a grown man to tears if I operate out of order in that masculine line of communication. Or I can encourage a man and come from that feminine aspect and pour into him and nurture him and express myself in a more feminine nature, and he's going to be more receptive to that. And so it just depends on recognizing those levels and us operating in those proper levels so that we can communicate effectively.
If you were to identify 2 or 3 causes from the barriers or breakdowns in communication, what would they be? What you see in your practice?
I think one of the main ones that I see in my practice is that a lack of empathy, a lack of caring about the other person and what they're trying to express. Because if I don't care, I'm not going to tune in, I'm going to be dismissive. Um, Number two, I think, would be not identifying somebody's communication style. You have to understand what energetic language they speak. So, for example, if you are a more loud, more rambunctious person, then it doesn't make sense for me to know that and know that you're more loud and more rowdy when you communicate, and then get angry when you're communicating with me and you're loud and rowdy. You're doing what's on brand for you. And so I should register that as your communication style and not take your loudness or your rowdiness as anger or too much aggression, and registers that as that's their energetic language. That's how they speak. And even in the reverse, if someone is more soft-spoken, if someone is more relaxed in their conversation, and you know that about that person, then don't let your mind go to a space where it registers that as them not caring or them being nonchalant. That's just the way that they speak. That's their energetic language. And so when we don't recognize that energetic language, there's always a barrier in communication. And I think third is not understanding that there's more than one way to skin a cat. That just because I feel this way, it's not the only way. Just because this is what I think is right doesn't mean it's the only way that's right. And so if we understand that people can have a difference of opinion without it being an issue, the communication is more effective as well.
I want y'all to hear them bars now, okay? She ain't playing no games on here. Playing no games. So the road to recovery, the road to repairing, the bridge that was burnt up in our lack of communication frenzy, or if you were hardwired or trained a certain kind of way, because I wouldn't call that rearing, trained a certain kind of way, and you're looking to rid yourself of those traumatic experiences. What are some tips, some strategies, some things to be intentional about in regards to rebuilding that bridge?
First, it takes an acknowledgement of something being wrong. Acknowledge that you don't communicate properly. Acknowledge that you may not have been taught properly. Acknowledge that what you've been doing is not working, so maybe you need to try something different. Once you acknowledge that, it's already going to be planted in your subconscious that, okay, I might have been raised to yell and scream when I get angry and I talk to people, but that's not the right way to do it. So let me catch myself when I hear myself getting loud. And so you'll start to kind of reprogram yourself. Your brain is like the illest computer in the world. You can upgrade it, you can reprogram it, you can expand it and add to it. It's a very complex muscle for sure, a very complex organ. But if we don't take the time to upgrade it, if we don't take the time to reprogram it, and we continue to stay on those same communication lines that we've been on, it's not likely to give us a different result. And so acknowledging where we need to change has to happen first. And then acknowledging that not everybody was taught the same way to communicate. Acknowledging that just because I was raised this way doesn't mean that somebody else was raised this way. Just because I speak this way doesn't mean that's how other people are going to speak or how they're going to process. And so acknowledging where the communication is broken down, the communication skills are lacking, and then also taking an acknowledgement of there's different levels of communication, there's different communication styles. And it's kind of like if we speak two different languages, I need to know what language you speak in order to make an effort to try to understand you. If I never make an effort to find out what language you speak, how am I going to translate it? How am I going to understand you? How can I teach you words and you teach me words if we can't communicate? And we're wired to do so. Think about during the slave trade. All of these Africans didn't come from the same place. All of them didn't speak the same language, but they got on that boat and figured out how to communicate with each other effectively because there was a need for it. There was an acknowledgement of difference in communication style, and we had to figure out, hey, some of these words are similar, some of these sound the same. Maybe we can point this, maybe we can draw that, maybe we can figure out another way to communicate with each other. We don't put that kind of effort into understanding each other now. And I think that if we did, it'd be a whole lot better.
That's what I'm talking about. Okay. That's what Delary said the other night. She said, "Oh, that's what I'm talking about." And she whooped Eddie Murphy behind after that. You understand what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I hear you.
I think we also don't put enough importance on how powerful our words are when we communicate.
Mm.
You have to think that even if you subscribe to Christianity and you subscribe to that mystical, magical book, the Bible, it does not say God went and got his hands dirty when he created the world. It says that he spoke things into existence. Any story that you read, it involves somebody speaking something into existence, saying something and it happening, declaring something or manifesting something with their words. And so think about how powerful that is. And of the millions of cells you have in your body, when you open your mouth and you say something, you're giving them instructions. So if I open my mouth and I say something negative, I just told millions of cells that negative thing. I just gave millions of cells that instruction, and they're going to carry out that instruction because that's what cells were designed to do. And not only are my cells going to carry out that negative instruction, the person I'm talking to, I just told millions of their cells these negative instructions, and then I'm wondering why we're arguing. Our words are so powerful that back during slavery, when they were transporting female Africans, they would put a bit or muzzle in our mouths to keep us quiet because it was said that women would speak and cause storms. Women would speak and cause the men to uprise and fight from hearing these women cry or hearing these women speak out. Something carnal in them would rise up just from hearing that woman cry out. So it became customary, especially for slaves being transported to the Southeast, to muzzle their mouths or put a bit in the women's mouths because their words were powerful and the energy behind their words was so strong that it can invoke riots. It could invoke a storm. It could, cause people to get ill. Even stories about some of the slave logs that say women would speak and people would drop dead or fall very sick. There's so much power in your words, and recognizing the power in your words will make you want to be more careful with how you use them and how you communicate.
Doc, thank you for your time. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your service, okay? Your service to our people, your service to our families and the broader communities with your gifts, with your talents, with your skills. Before we go, do you have any final thoughts? Because I'm about to ask you about House of Blanco. Okay, we got to do our commercial for the lead. So, do you have any final thoughts in regards to these communication styles for the people out here to help us do what we need to do and communicate more effectively?
Just a simple instruction of be good to each other, be kind to each other. If you're kind to each other and you're caring about one another, you care about what that person is trying to express, and you care enough to listen as much as you care enough to speak. And so when we communicate, listen to understand, not listening to respond, is really, really important. So I think that's the main thing. Always listen to understand instead of listening to respond.
All right. I'm on the website. I'm about to pull it up. We about to go to House of Blanco. Second. All right, here we go. House of Blanco on the screen. Tell the fam about House of Blanco. We get new people every time, so got to
Well,
tell them.
Haus Blanco definitely offers a lot of therapy options, also just a lot of spiritual guidance, whether you need readings, whether you need therapy sessions, customized rituals or meditation sessions, anything that you could possibly need for your holistic wellness, we pretty much have it. And now we've also launched New Eden University, where we have been approved by the state of North Carolina to offer post secondary degrees in spiritual modalities. So things like Reiki, meditation leadership, even ordained ministry, African traditional religions, any of those things that you may be interested in studying, we now have bachelor's, master's, and doctorate programs available in those spiritual modalities. So we working.
And you just recently had another celebration, correct? Another graduation.
Another graduation. I know my mama's like, how many more graduation gowns is this girl gonna get?
Tell mama to take one and know one, okay, mama?
I just got one more. I told her one more and I'm
Oh
done.
no.
I'm not even gonna take a CPR class after that. I don't want to take no more classes after this last degree. But there was a method to my madness. In order for me to open up a full service holistic wellness center, the requirement in the state was to have a therapist, a spiritual advisor, as well as someone who was well versed in natural medicine.
Mm.
And instead of me trying to partner up with these different people that do these different things, I decided to be educated and certified in all these areas myself. And so I was already a therapist. I'm also now an ordained minister. I have a doctorate in theology. And pretty soon, in a few months here, I'll also have a doctorate in naturopathic medicine. So I'll be able to kind of cover all those bases on my own without having to worry about partnering up with too many people and too many folks in the pot. So I wasn't just going to school just to be going to school.
That's what it is. That's what it is. House of Blanco. Go over there, you're gonna have to work. She ain't playing no games, okay?
Yeah, you got to
Playing
do the
no
work.
games. That's
Don't
what
come over there thinking I'm gonna pat you on the back and hold your hand. No, baby, let's do this
no.
shadow work, figure some stuff out.
We'll see some of the fam in the building. All right, you got a final word, final thoughts. Tell folks where they can find you and what you got going on. You always got something going. If
Always,
you got some kind of deal, some kind of special, some kind of something up to something.
I
So tell them a
have
little something.
I have therapy packages. A lot of people complain about the cost of therapy or complain that their insurance may not cover the type of therapy that they like. And so I offer these packages that are just $150 a month for 4 sessions of therapy. So that's 4 therapy sessions within 30 days. That's only $150 a month. We also have some of the packages for some of our ongoing clients who it's registered as life coaching instead of just therapy, where you can get 3 months of life coaching for $250. That's unlimited therapy sessions that can be booked through the website. That's also 24/7 text support, where we have people manning the phones as a crisis line. If something happens in the middle of the night, you need to vent, you need to speak to someone, we have someone on standby available 24 hours a day that answers the phones and can guide you through whatever mental health or spiritual crisis you're dealing with. So like I said, always working, always working.
That's what it is. That's what it is. And tell them where to find you. Or try to find you anyway.
Houseofblanco.com always is the easiest route. On Instagram, Blanco Bruja. Um, TikTok, same thing, Blanco Bruja. I'm not really too heavy on the other social media outlets, but House of Blanco is usually your best bet as far as reaching out to me. There is a messenger center built into the site that will send messages directly to me, and I'll get back in touch with you ASAP.
Once again, thank you for your time. Thank you for your love, honest to you and that dynamic family and the House of Blanco squad over there. I don't want no smoke. Okay. Man, love for everybody. Man, love for everybody. Thank you again. And we'll be back next month.
Of course, you just let me know.
All right. All right.
Hey, y'all
See,
be
look, we made it. All right. We made it. We made it. You enjoy the rest of your day.
you too, King. You too.
All right. Peace.
Everything's a vibe. Like, this is science. Everything's got its own frequency. We know that energy is neither created or destroyed, it's merely transferred or transformed. When we speak in energy. I don't even think people pay attention half the time in conversation when I say, I feel you, I feel you, I feel you.
You said I read your mind the other day, but baby, we are just connected deeply in another way. That telepathy connection, energy that's manifested through that melanin, electric currents traveling kinetic. What you thinking? Call my mama. But my mama calling me. Coincidence, no higher common sense of calling ESP. We are magic while this world's unraveling. 5G cannot limit our abilities from traveling. See, I'm on another level, dirty digging. Homie, get the shovel. I'm a rebel in this motherfucker, dancing with these demons. Got them screaming. This world is planting fear inside us. Clearly, I'm just over all the brainwashing. Time to wash your brain of all the pain, of all the stress, all the lies you told yourself. Open your eyes and realize you're a diamond in the rock. Don't let them tell you what you're not. It's time to show the world all this magic that we got with telepathy.
So hear me clearly. For me, language is liberation. The words that we have, they define and describe the very things that free our mind, but only when we choose with intention and pay attention to the frequency of the words that we use to construct our realities. Who do you say that you are? I am. I am. Those two words alone are the very beginning to a powerful sequence of awakening yourself to who and all that you are, have been and will be. We talk in frequency.
Clouded visions, poison minds, can't see clear enough. The world full of interference, so God ain't hearing us. My spouse miles away, can't even take a walk in public. Coronavirus got us locked away like lab subjects. Close your eyes and you can feel the pain, we all connected. Empath, so I sense when every soul's ejected. A mystic, magical, way beyond simplistic. 5G blocking my chi, keeping our signals twisted. Communicate with my mind, mental telepathy. Into nature, so we speak on different frequencies. My third I watch, the other two never truly see. The world is an illusion shrouded in secrecy. A king by birthright, a god at first sight. Divine shine bright, blind the wicked at first light. Open your heart chakra and let these words shock you. We telepathic, use your magic like a witch doctor.
Or ancient Egyptian words of power that speaks to the soul. I command your soul to listen. Nuktichaz un mesura aritun ak em ta tema'u. Nuktichaz un mesura aritun ak em ta tema'u. Nuktichaz un mesura aritun ak em ta tema'u. Chaz un mesura aritun ak im ta tema'u.
Yeah. Now we gonna tell them. That in front. We tell them like this, yo. I'm a African. I'm a African. I'm a African. I'm a African. Yeah, y'all like that? No more. This man's mind is open. I'm an African. I'm a African. I'm a African. I'm a. Let's get back to the
motive is best developed by recognizing the common enemy.